It's me.
That'll be $8.
I am miserable.
Kick it.
Welcome to Season 5, Slimesters. This is Splat Attack, a podcast honoring the slime-filled past. I'm your gackerific ear of corn, Brett.
And I'm your maniacal home repairman, Alex. And Brett,
Yes.
what are we doing here on the set of All That?
Well, it's been a long time since we touched upon the show, and because it's one that hit us with a bang the moment that it aired on Nickelodeon, it's time to give them the spotlight to one of the most entertaining sketch-variety kids shows that the channel had to offer. And of course, we're talking about All That, and of course, it gave rise to several spin-offs, in fact.
Absolutely. And I am so frustrated with the fact that as much as I love All That, we didn't get to touch this as a whole until Season 5. Because, again, Nickelodeon has so many things to talk about. But we won't be going too in-depth about the history of the show overall. We'll be saving that for a future episode that we have planned. So instead, we're taking things a bit lighter, a more fun approach, and we're going to be sharing some of our favorite All That sketches to see if any of our Slimesters remember them.
Indeed. Yeah, if anyone wants just a little bit of taste before diving into this episode, go check out our favorite Nicktoons episode or Secret Agent Nick, which are both on Patreon. We mention all that, a little bit more there too. But yeah, we won't be going too far in depth with like the history of All That. We'll save that for like anniversary retrospective, whatever comes our way in the future. We're just going to have some fun, list a few favorite sketches that come to mind. Some may be recurring, some may be one-time sketches, and some may overlap, which is perfectly fine. It's all about remembering the good times, because get ready, get set, it's All That.
Well, I think you've got... I think Lori Beth would be a bit jealous. You got that big ear of corn there along there with you, I see.
Yeah, it's just kind of chilling off screen with me, hanging out in the corner, waiting for you to say something very witty and then carry it away. But I think someone's actually moving it that I see backstage. Who is that? Who's behind that ear of corn?
It looks like Kiley has come back for this episode.
Oh, hey Kiley. Good to see you again. Thought we lost you in Wienerville.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
That's perfect.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well,
Hi.
everybody, for those of you who weren't around on our Patreon to see our 30th anniversary Wienerville episode, this is a very dear friend of mine, Kiley Eberhard. She joined us for that episode, and she was gracious to come back. We didn't run her off, so that makes me happy. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you here.
Time.
And also, I tried, guys. I really tried to get some. I wanted to have like a little mini reunion, like we've managed to do many times on the podcast. But all that, the cast overall is very tricky to get a hold of. But I have been very fortunate to make some connections through doing all the things that I've done. So I have had the wonderful opportunity to get to interview our next guest one-on-one, and he has graciously joined us again for this episode for the first time on Splat Attack. Hello, Mr. Leon Frierson.
Hey, Leon Lee Boy Frierson in the building. My name is Lee Boy. Have a nice day. I had to come through on anything All That related and, show my support. It sounds like I'm the only All That cast member that ain't got nothing to do. Like, am I the only one available? I don't know. I got to reevaluate, my goals out here. No, I'm playing, but happy to be on. I'm a podcaster, so I'm going to show up where the podcasts are at. And, appreciate you inviting me, man.
And Leon has got all kinds of things going on. So I know it sounds like, oh, everyone else is busy. No, Leon's busy too. It just happens to be that he and I have made a connection, and he's been able to. I've tried to support him where I can, and he's been there for me. So I appreciate you very much, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for the first time to talk about all that with us. I know we're going to hear some great stories from you and just dig a little bit deeper into what made it so special back, when it was in its prime on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm going to try to remember as much as I can now. Don't forget, I was like 11, 12
Oh,
years
that's
old.
okay.
Still a guy.
I'll help you.
But,
A couple of my choices you're involved with.
I have an inkling that you'll probably jog my memory a couple times. So bring it on. I'm ready.
Going along with our special guests, we have one more guest who is going to be joining us. She is not here at the moment. I was informed prior to the episode that that she may be a bit late, and that's perfectly fine. We've had some who were late before and joined us later in the episode, so no problem there. But I do have one more surprise for everybody, and this is a very small one. This one's mostly going to hit Kiley more than anybody else.
No.
But I do have one more quick guest appearance. I actually need to take my background off for this one. So before we get going, the last time when we did the 30th anniversary episode, and the moment I said 30th anniversary, Kiley was like, "Oh, I feel old now."
Oh no.
So I'm sorry to say that, but Kiley, do you remember when we did As You Like It? And that's how big Sam was?
Oh, he was so little.
Come here, Squirts. Get up here.
Oh.
Of all the shows that we have covered on the podcast, this one will usually go and watch an episode or two of the shows that we're talking about just because Daddy's watching these shows and he wants to watch them too. I swear he's watched that Salute Your Shorts Michael Comes to Camp episode over a dozen times, and that's just about the only episode that he's watched.
That's where it's at, ma'am.
But he's watched a lot of Double Dare and Legends of the Hidden Temple, and he enjoys the game shows. But of all the shows that I've caught him watching on his own, especially on YouTube, is All That. So I've had no coaching on this at all. It was just he enjoyed them and he's watched them. So I want to get his quick picks real fast. I told you it'd be just a few minutes. Come here, Booger. You know who this is, yes? Who is that? Leon.
Hey, there you go. Have a nice day.
All right, come here, Squirt. Tell everybody, pick 3. What were some of your favorite All That sketches?
Well, my least favorite, but I still like it, is Vital Information.
Of the ones you're
okay.
picking, that's your number
So that's
3.
in the third place.
Okay.
All right.
What's your other 2?
Super Dude.
Mm-hmm.
Good choice.
Relax, Mr.
And?
Lactose and Tom.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good
There
Burger.
you go.
Can I take your order, dude? Yeah.
How did
Oh,
I
great
know that was
choices.
your favorites?
Great choices.
I was
All right.
just watching
Making a
Beck
good burger
Pearson
too.
today.
They are making a good burger too. All right, you want to tell everybody goodbye?
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Sam.
Moving on to the next Splat attack skit.
Okay, have fun.
Got a star
All right.
in the making there.
All right,
Let's
love
go
you,
see
buddy.
Kevin. 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Alex,
Splat you later, he said.
that was
Very nice.
painful, and now I feel even older.
Love you, Kiley.
He was a baby.
All right, well, before we get going too much with our picks of favorite All That sketches, and I know this is going to be a bit of a loaded question for Leon, so we'll transfer over to Kiley first. What are some of your favorite memories, or what memories do you have, period, of watching All That as a kid?
I absolutely loved All That. It was one of my favorite shows, and there's something about it, because I mean, if you look at it in a broad spectrum, it was like SNL for kids, and I just felt so like immersed in it, and like I ended up doing a lot of theater when I was little, so it was really cool to see things like, just little skits at a time, and like seeing it and being able to relate to that, and seeing what's possible for someone my age to be able to do acting. But Honestly, I think some of my fondest memories, and this seems like a weird one to stick out, but my fondest memories were racing during commercial breaks to get the things
Yes.
done. I had
Yeah.
put off anything my mom was like, hey, you need to do that or something like that, or I needed to like grab food or something. I was like, okay, I've got a minute, and I would wait until the commercial break hit and running around, and just anytime mom's like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, no, all that's coming back on. I'll do it in the next commercial break. But like every time that new episode was on, I was right there in front of the TV. And it's some of my fondest memories are those nights.
You sound exactly like me as a kid when I was tuned into all that, because I
Hmm.
was just like, I can't miss a second of it. When I hear the bumper saying, now back to all that, I got to be parked right in front of my TV and ready to go with my snacks. And I knew that if there was a commercial break, I'd have to time it, be like, okay, I got 30 to 45 seconds left. I race downstairs, grab a snack, go back up, and if someone yelled at me, I'd be like, I'll talk to you later. Not now.
I mean, and that really went for the entire Snick block too, though. Like as
Yeah.
soon as Snick
Especially
came
that.
on, it was like,
Hmm.
similar feeling to TGIF, but it's like you're locked in for the entire 2 hours, whatever it was. There's no going anywhere.
My parents knew that like once that block started, like I was done for the night. Like I was on that TV.
Not coming outside.
Hmm.
Getting a whole lot of dopamine hits for sure.
Yes.
Like, it's like
Just
you're on a different
getting
level
all
once-
of the
yeah, like-
serotonin and dopamine.
right. There's something else going on.
And that is such a lost treasurable moment with
Commercial
now
breaks.
everything being on demand now,
Right.
that you can just skip ad and get what you want immediately. Kids don't know that rush of, all right, I gotta go. Especially whenever, and it's a bit gross to say, but whenever you had to use the restroom and
Yes.
you were holding it, and then you had 1 minute to try to get everything taken
like,
care
"Gotta
of and
go."
back.
It's funny you mentioned that, Alex, because I think, when we were talking about our Great Wave episode review way back in season 2 on Patreon, we talked about this moment in Our Real Monsters where they're showing like pictures, the TV screen with like the Super Bowl going on, and they're like, we'll be right back after these messages, and don't forget to come to our Super Bowl halftime with those crazy dancers. And you just hear like a uniform flush of the entire city going to the bathroom at the same time. It's like, oh, it's so true.
It's true.
Oh man, that's great. Leon, I know this is going to be a bit tough, so I will phrase it like this. Working on all that as a kid, what are some standout memories off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I mean, definitely meeting the artist. That was like, the next level. I, in particular, really wanted to meet Lauryn Hill. Never happened because she performed offsite. And then there's stories like that each and every week where you want to get in front of them, profess your love, get an autograph, and it hardly ever happens. Like they're usually in and out. You're a kid and they have their adult entourages, but like meeting Shaq and certainly Britney Spears and NSYNC, I believe, came in the same week. And I'll just say
Wow.
they just turned the entire set upside down. They were there together, like looking back at it now. I didn't realize that they were so connected. At the time, Justin and Britney. But they literally turned the set upside down. But then also in weeks where Wyclef Jean and Destiny's Child were there at the same time. And he was, on their first single, No, No, No. He had taken an interest in me. Actually, I was singing CJ in the Cloudy Nights that week, and he was like telling me I could get a record deal. So that I would say is definitely a top moment. But just in general, trying to interact with the guests and being such a fanboy, it was fun. It was fun. It was like going to a concert every week as a kid. It's
That's
a different
awesome.
experience.
Did you watch all that before you went to audition for the show?
Stole my words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, so when Kylie was talking about it, I mean, I remember having those same feelings when Snick was on, and I had been auditioning probably since I was 7 or 8 years old, about the same time when all that came out, and I really looked up to Keenan and Kel quite a bit. And when the audition came around, I really took it like I wanted to land this job. Whereas other times you kind of go through the motions, but I came extra prepared for the like I was passing every test that they put in front of me. But no, but seriously, like watching Kenan and Kel coming up, obviously they were revolutionary for the time. And then one of my favorites was, Ross Perot, and we could talk about stuff like that later. But there's just certain skits that are just so timeless and so important. And then of course the cultural background and everything. Hip hop music in the 94 is like, this is the golden era of hip hop, and then they're representing for kids. And then the last thing I'll say about it is, the cast of all that is great because they're very relatable. They're not as polished as some other networks, and you really see yourself in the kids. So it felt like I had a chance getting on, watching the show when I was 8, 9, and 10 years old, watching Mavis and Clavis, just thinking I wish I could do it, and then or thinking I could do it and then actually achieving it. Obviously not everyone has that story, but right. I will say that the cast is very relatable, and it leaves you something that, a certain belief that things are obtainable in life. So I think they're a very inspirational cast, especially in those formative years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. More power to you for actually making it happen, because I'm sure hundreds, if not millions of people, who are in that age range were thinking the same thing. I know I felt the same when I first saw you on TV when you were introduced into the cast, believe it or not. Like, wow, if a normal person like you could get on the show, maybe I could. But of course, that dream didn't quite go the way I wanted. But at least seeing that happen, where you just kind of came out of the audience and joined everyone on stage, it gave kids a sense of hope that they can not only just watch the shows they love, but they could eventually become a part of the shows that they love. And I think that's really special when Nickelodeon does that, to make you feel included as a viewer and not just a bystander at home.
Yeah, and if they ever come out with an award for best entrance onto a show, please nominate me, because I'm up there like I'm just literally in the audience. I'm like, help a brother out.
I loved it like, so much.
Let a brother on, and they was like, all right, and then that was it. Just like my life.
It was that easy.
Right.
My name's Leon.
Yes, Leon.
And if you just gonna let them 2 kids join the cast of all that, how about let me join too? Help a brother out.
Sure, yeah. Come on down.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, Brett, what are some of your favorite memories of watching all that as a kid?
Oh man, so many of them. It's like you're opening the floodgates for me. I tuned in from the very get-go. As soon as I knew it existed back in 1994, I watched all the episodes for like the first around 6, 7 seasons. I think, after that, I kind of just fell off with the rest of Nickelodeon. But for the second 2/3 of the 90s, I was just making sure I showed up at SNCC every time. And if I missed it for whatever reason, I would watch it whenever it was on Nickelodeon again. And I just loved the concept of the sketches. It's fun, it's silly, there's a little bit of something for everyone. They're always keeping things like moving, churning, different ideas constantly. And of course they're bringing back favorite recurring sketches, which we'll be talking about, and of course the musical guests. Aside from raiding my mother's record collection when I was a kid to discover new music, that's how I got my music. And that's why I have a big connection to like R&B hip hop music, because I just heard a lot of the tunes and a lot of the performers that I like Da Brat, Craig Mack, Immature, Brandy, Aaliyah, just to name a few, tons more, Busta Rhymes. And it's just like, it's a great way to introduce culture to kids that if you didn't necessarily watch MTV or VH1, you can still get that. And much like Kiley said, it does feel like SNL for kids, with the format being very, very similar and parallel in that regard. And I think it's great and important that we're able to have that and celebrate all the talent, ranging from music to the acting and the sketches, just to be a part of that.
Yeah, and for me, I very much enjoyed watching the show, but what I enjoyed more was going to school on Monday and talking to all my friends about it, and then we would all start trying to act out what we remembered from the
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
Because we didn't know it word for word because we only got to watch it one time, and then we had to pull everything from
was
memory. And then somebody would inevitably point out a joke that, oh yes, and then completely forgot that, and then they'd start riffing again. And then hearing all of my friends wanting to sing the song from the musical guest. But
You know what's one of the best to try to replay is Ask Ashley. You know what I'm saying? So if you could just remember the one topic, you like use your stinking feet. You're like,
Yep.
oh my god,
Man.
Sam has started doing that now. He started listening, making up stupid requests just so that way we could start ribbing into him. And it's hard to tell when he's being serious or when he's joking. But after he starts giving you that goofy smile, it's like,
Yep.
okay, you're doing an Amanda Ask Ashley thing.
And you guys mentioned some of the. I was been looking down at this picture right here. I forgot it was even right here, but some of the musical guests. I think Salt and Pepper right here. I was
Love it.
Man,
going
Wow.
down memory lane.
that's so cool.
But yeah, you know, a little.
Great, you
bit
made a
all
collage
that
of it.
stuff. CJ
Oh, there's you.
Wallace.
Yeah.
There's you, the disco fro, and I think Kenan Thompson was in that sketch too, where you're all singing.
That's on my
Yeah.
list.
Awesome.
That's a good one. Oh, look, wait, this is one more legendary one too. Look, hold up. I don't know if you remember this cold open. We're all Kevin's.
Yes.
Yes.
I just watched that earlier today.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Well, going along with our favorite all that sketches, this is going to be an incredible surprise for both Brett and Kylie. I know it's going to completely shock them. Jimmy Bond.
Hello, Hotto.
Jimmy Bond? What's up with you, man?
That's one of my favorites
I knew
too.
it. I knew it. Come on.
Anybody who's watched this podcast long enough knows I am a huge James Bond fan. And before I even knew who James Bond was, because I didn't get into Bond until shortly after I started watching all that.
Was it because
No.
of the sketch? Were you like, I liked this sketch. This is the same.
No, that mostly happened just because I was getting too old. I was going through that phase where I didn't want kid shows anymore, and
Too
I was
cool
trying to
for it.
find. Yeah, I was, and now here I am.
Kid shows anymore. I'm an adult.
And here I am, 37, talking about kid shows
shows.
still.
We were so naive back then.
I was the same.
But I got into James Bond movies in 98. And I think the first one of these was really around 96 when Jimmy Bond started becoming a thing. And the funny thing is, whenever I was going back and watching the James Bond movies for the first time and we came to Goldfinger, I remembered Coldfinger,
Goldfinger.
Yep.
from
It's
from
really
the
cold. Come on, look at it.
Look at my finger. It is really, really cold. Look at it. Look at it. Look, my cold finger. Cold. Look, I know it's cold.
and I drew a picture. I think it's still hanging up in my dad's garage of James Bond versus Coldfinger, and it was an Eskimo because I couldn't remember who it was, but I just drew an Eskimo with an ice cube on his finger, just like on all that. But I love the James Bond play. I love that even though this was technically at a time period when James Bond hasn't made his big reboot with Pierce Brosnan just yet, but there was a lot of talk about it at the time, so the creators ended up pulling it into all that, which was really fun to see. And it was Austin Powers before Austin Powers.
Yes.
Yeah.
A couple years.
Great sketches. I love I think there was like 3 altogether, and I loved all 3 of them.
Funnily
There's
enough,
a
I
few
think
more.
Hot Toe was like my favorite thing that came out of that whole thing.
That was Christy, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I got
All right, Brett, what is one of yours?
Well, the first one that I have on my list is a classic, right from the get-go of the series. It's something near and dear to my heart because I used to do public access in high school. So my first pick is Cooking with Randy and Mandy.
So good.
And now, Channel 106B presents live from their own kitchen, Cooking with Randy and Mandy.
Thank you. Yeah, with Angelique Bates and Kenan Thompson doing Randy and Mandy proper. And I just love how they seem so serious and so normal for like the first minute of their sketch. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, so we're going to make this cake here. It looks pretty nice, doesn't it? I think there's something missing.
Chocolate!
And then, of course, they just go nuts, throw tons of like chocolate chips, chocolate syrup, you name it, all over it. And each different sketch, they do like a variation of just something wild with chocolate, like getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where it's like chocolate statues. You can do like chocolate jacuzzis. There's like one where Kenan did the sketch without Mandy because it was like post season 2 after Angelique had left.
Well, we all know how much Mandy loves chocolate. Unfortunately, during a recent chocolatey wild weekend, Mandy lost her mind and consumed 479 pounds of pure milk chocolate. Last I heard, Mandy was locked away in a chocolate rehabilitation facility. We wish her well.
And his like grandpappy came to like make a salad, and he's like, no, we don't need a healthy food on here. And then when his grandpappy opens one of the cabinets, it just oozes like a chocolate gush geyser all over him. I'm like, wow. That's amazing. I'm so glad they have to deal with that and not me, because I love chocolate, but not enough to be covered in it, because that's really sticky stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a good time. It's like pure kid junk food visually and literally, and I loved every moment whenever it came on TV. Of course, you also have Josh Serva as Tandy, who is like the health food nut who tried to calm down.
Tandy is
like,
one of my favorite characters of his.
Yeah,
I love Tandy.
Wait, what does he do? He's like a health nut?
Yeah. Tandy would like bring something healthy as an alternative to the chocolate, and she like,
Now I understand you've written your very own cookbook.
That's correct, Randy. It's called Vegetables and Such.
They saved Tandy though, and they put Tandy in with the like teachers of the school, and I was just like, yes.
Maybe she's the home ec teacher later on.
But like they also had another one, Cooking with Mandy and Randy is one of my favorites too. But the episode when they had Chris Farley.
Yes, with the ketchup, he was the ketchup chef.
Seeing Kenan hold his own in a scene with Chris Farley, looking at that as an adult, because I went back and did some rewatching. It was just, I was like, it was so before its time, and like you could tell that like Chris Farley was a good scene partner and was there, to just be immersed in everything, and it's so good.
You gotta do it, guys! Hey, man, what are you doing? It's all in the wrist. What goes on? What is you doing? Many times I'll even take a nap.
Yeah, he. I mean, they were just constantly one-upping each other in that sketch with like the chocolate and the ketchup, and Chris Farley just went with full force, like right into whatever is in front of him,
as he always does.
It was magic.
And you just have to give all that as kudos for another crossover, a great crossover performance, or like how they are able to make these moves. It's like doesn't really fit in with the rest of the Nickelodeon.
Just some of the greats you guys got to have time with. You had
I mean, I was thinking Tommy Davidson was there a couple times, and so like real legitimate comedians would come spend their time and mentor. I think really mentor Kenan and Kel wanted to make sure that they were going to, move forward and be legends in this game as they are. But then, just what it meant for us as a cast. It's just Chris Farley. I forgot actually about that. That's why I had to mention on that. But I remember seeing that as a kid because I was a huge fan of Chris Farley.
Oh yeah, same here.
I mean, everyone that it has a comedic bone in their body should have been a fan of his.
And props to Kenan too, because doing these skits live, it's tough to do it all in one take, and especially whenever you're against a comedic giant like Chris, who goes for the laugh, and for Kenan to be able to not break but also hold his own you can
there's
tell the foundations were there for the career that he has.
Yeah, and there's extra pressure there when you have like a prop like chocolate, because you really can only do it so many times and like start over from the beginning. So a lot of those times you would see Keenan and Kel really knock it out in 1 or 2 takes, because otherwise it's just like a lot to start from one. Hell, no, I mean, not starting from one. So they would, if they made a mistake, they would just keep going. They would edit, but they were great at doing everything in 1 or 2 takes. So.
And Kylie, what is one of yours?
Super Dude is one of my all-time favorites. Funnily enough, that's how I learned what lactose intolerant was.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Same here.
Like, I felt so smart after I watched Super Dude, because I was like,
I'm lactose intolerant.
I know what lactose intolerant is. Like, it was so great. And then what I loved about it, and especially like when I was doing a rewatch, like looking at how it evolved, and like you see with a lot of things where characters kind of get bits because it's something that organically happened and it was funny. So it just kind of becomes a bit of the sketch every time. And so I love how in the beginning it was just a very simple explanation to what lactose intolerance was, because we're all kids and we're like, oh, okay. And then throughout the seasons, it then became, he's lactose intolerant. It's like, there's the Western one where it's like, you mean he doesn't like purple? And it's like, no. So it's like the bit got added in to like further explain what lactose intolerance was in a funnier way.
He's lactose intolerant. That means he can't handle milk or other dairy products.
Lactose intolerant? What's that?
Lactose intolerant means that Super Dude is harmed by dairy products.
What's lactose intolerant?
Lactose intolerant means that Super Dude is harmed by dairy products.
And the dairy themed bad guys. And I think honestly, Alex should not be surprised by this. I love Adam West Batman. It's one of my favorites. And it just felt very Adam West Batman, very comic book, beautiful layers to it. You had Milkman, you had Butter Boy,
Yo girl.
Yo girl.
Cowboy, like, just, it was so good. And the costuming, that's one of my main favorite things about all that, is they always went above and beyond on their costumes, and the more outlandish the costume, the more impressive it was every time.
And how
100%.
a lot of times they just use these costumes maybe once or twice.
Yeah, like the amount of craftsmanship that would go into some of those, especially like the food themed stuff, or like if somebody was like a semi-animal or anything, like everything was top notch.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
seemed like this.
I was gonna just say something really quick about the creative guys that put so much time into those costumes, because it really was like a passion you would see on the sketch. I mean, on the set. And those guys are really personable, really fun, and really took it seriously, and always got feedback from the cast. And that was always a fun part of the creative process, for sure.
It seemed like they used a pretty large portion of their budget for the sets, because it seemed to get very elaborate with a lot of their stories. Like, I remember this one vividly from one of the earlier seasons where Penny Lane was like in Milkman's like barn fortress, and it had like a motorized door to reveal some sort of weird milk container that she was in, and it was filling up, and Super Dude had to save her from that.
Wait till they get a load of milk.
I'm just like, wow, this is really intense.
Or the amount of like projectiles they would do, like even with the milk, or like all of that, like so much went into it technically.
Yeah, I mean, there was always a lot of experts. I'll tell you that. Like you would see experts come in on a week-to-week basis. Especially when you see animals or something, anything that that coming in. So there was always new talent and people coming around. And then just compared to other sets where you would just be like in a school or at a house, it was like totally different vibe. Very creative, very fun, and for kids like myself, it was like it didn't seem like a job at all. You know, it was
like
just
a big playground,
an adventure every week. They would let you shoot the guns and, you know, get squirted if you wanted, all kind of stuff. So definitely some great behind the scenes moments with the sets and the costumes. Always good times.
I was gonna say, Leon, were you in a couple of Super Dude sketches?
Yeah, I think I would have been in some. I can't think of any offhand. I know, you know, Keenan, I definitely remember him in that Super Dude outfit. But I can't think of any offhand. But for sure, I was around. I just remember he hated being in them damn tights. By the time we were doing it, he would be like, "Get me out of this damn costume," or he have a robe on half the time. That was probably the number one thing I remember. He was like, as soon as they say cut, man, get me out. Let me sit down somewhere. This is hella embarrassing, you know, as you can imagine.
I hear ya. Plus those foam muscles too. I bet those are making it even tighter.
Leon, what is one of your picks? And this could be for either one that you enjoy doing the most or have a special memory to, or one you enjoyed watching. Just what's one of your picks?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be pretty diplomatic about it. I'm not just gonna pick myself every time. I might put one in there. No, but for sure, I'm gonna start off with Everyday French with Pierre Escargot.
And now, all that presents a semi-educational moment. Everyday French with Pierre Escargot.
It really like encapsulates the vibe of the entire humor of all that. Just because the things he says really don't make sense, but somehow they do make sense, and it's really funny, although it might not be that funny, and it might be a little bit insulting or a little bit weird, but somehow you find the humor in it.
Pourquoi tu me tires des en coke de part? Why must you beat me with a pork chop?
And also just the freestyle nature of the whole skit, and like every single time, I think Keenan, like when he makes up the French language, sometimes he doesn't quite know where he's gonna go with this stuff, and to be able to watch that.
C'est toi lady Mercedes, they hot dog and hamburgers and pizza and stuff. This men's room smells wonderful.
Was just always hilarious. It was one of those sketches where, you know, everyone's usually at craft services or they're getting their makeup done. I would sit there and just watch that in front of the live audience because it never disappointed. And I think Keenan made some great moments. Just, you know what it is? It's his facial expressions, looking into the camera, and he's like going. You can see him on the edge of laughter throughout the entire sketch. So he's breaking the fourth wall, and I think it just, you know, it's a peek into the real sense of humor of Kenan Thompson. So I love Pierre Escargot.
Quella tela vous à pourquoi de la vous. Who are you and why are you wearing my daddy's panties? Oh!
Now, obviously, did he know prior to the recording or the performance, did he know what the phrases were, or did they just give it to him and then he improv'd whatever the French phrases were?
You know, I think so. I would say in the beginning of the week we would get a script, and it would be usually Pierre Escargot was 1 page, right? Because he really says like 5 lines, and so there would be phrases there, but definitely they would feed him lines throughout the live, and just let him say some even kookier things, and he would also freestyle and just get as many takes as they could. Because literally, like I said, it's a 1-minute sketch. But if you give him 3 minutes, while, you know, might as well while we're all sitting here, he comes up with some gold. And I'm sure they probably stretched out so many of those takes and got extra footage and extra takes. And you know, Keenan's he's great. Just put a camera on him and let him freestyle. He's one of the best ad-libbers in the game.
You can't say that on top. Pardonnez-moi, corps les nations des éléphants. Excuse me, why is your elephant Mexican?
And the thing that I really loved the most about all of those is how he almost breaks himself
every
on
time.
So many occasions. And of all the things that you see people almost breaking at, it's Pierre.
C'est la mon père, the dumb sheep.
It's not my fault your sheep can't follow instructions.
That happens the most. I think only one occasion I can recall where the actors were making each other break, and it was on the Good Burger skit.
One good shake.
Of all things to almost break at, it was Pierre, and I love it every single time.
He's laughing at himself.
Yes, he just looks like he's having such a good time, or like he starts messing with the bubbles and something happens that just gets him, and he like when he's like playing with like the big fish in the bubbles, and he just starts laughing at the fact, and then he's like, oh wait, hold on, I gotta get it, and then I gotta go.
And see, I never got that. I never understood as a kid, how can you laugh at yourself? And now doing theater, and also,
I'm hilarious.
And messing, I'll mess with kids. I teach kids at church, and I just get stuck in a character. I'll make something up, and then I just get stuck in that character, and I don't even think. It just happens pure instinct, and the kids will start asking me questions as this character, and then I'll just answer immediately, and as soon as those words leave my mouth, I start cracking up, and they start cracking up. I'm like, okay, I get it. I see where Keenan's coming from now. It's full character, and it just comes out, and as soon as it's done, it's
Ce sont j'ai entendu de le soleil René Flammasier. That monkey is sniffing my sister.
So one of my second pick that I'm going to mention, and I don't even know if there's an official name for it. There probably is, but it's the cold open. Just before the all that sketch when Kevin comes in. 5 minutes, people, 5 minutes, and of course now the theater kid.
Intro.
Thank you, Five.
Thank you, Five. I want to do that every time he walks in because that's what we do in theater.
I'm just here to tell you that in 10 minutes, the show will be starting in 5 minutes.
They were always so bizarre because it's a peek behind the curtain, so you get to see all the actors be themselves, but at the same time, it still dives into some really weird territory where just all kinds of crazy things happen. Like the one that you were showing where everybody was being Kevin. There was one where Kevin was fired and he was hiding in the bathroom and all of them had to go find him. And the introduction of Amanda and how she was being overly sweet and nice, and then they ended up ejecting him out of a seat, and then everyone was like, oh no, you're cool.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Amanda, just have one thing to say. Welcome to the cast.
They're all ridiculous and fun. It's a perfect open for the show for its ridiculous humor.
But look, man, you can't be an actor. See, you're a dolphin on a stick. Dolphin on a stick.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of life lessons taught in cold opens for sure. I mean, there's always some underlying jokes that are great. And yeah, I mean, make Kevin a star. And what I think is really interesting at it is that we use our real names. So like you said, it's a peek into behind the curtains, but then also it really gives us it personalizes us. And I think it was interesting. It's just an interesting take on primetime television. It's not too many times you'll see stuff like that outside of like a Saturday Night Live or one of those shows that kind of been reality. So
I think it was also kind of educational for kids, because it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, there's a kid doing something, but it's like it kind of gave you, without much difficulty, the explanation of, oh, you know, this is Lori Beth. She is Lori Beth, but she's playing all these characters, and it kind of explains how TV works in a fun way. And it's like, I don't know, I really connected with that because I was like, oh, that's what I can do that. And that made me want to do things like theater, because I was like, I want to try that and kind of delve into that. It was very intelligent and I loved it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I appreciated the most of it, because I've always been fascinated with how movies and TV shows are made. And as a kid, I couldn't separate character from artist. Ironically, of all places, it wasn't until Mighty Morphin Power Rangers where I learned that they're not the same, because they used to have those public service announcements at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
They don't have those, and you can't find them anywhere except maybe on YouTube. But there was one where the the actors Bulk and Skull were playing golf, and they started arguing, and the other kid that was with them was starting to encourage Bulk, like knock his block off or something, and then he's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, well, you do that all the time on the show. Yeah, but I'm not that guy. I play that character. And he started, and that was mind blowing to me as what, 6, 7 years old. But whenever I got to watch this show and I got to see behind the scenes, you don't see that on Saturday Night Live, and all that has been unofficially dubbed the Saturday Night Live for kids. But even on Saturday Night Live, you never really see the actors behind the scenes sketches where they're as themselves, a caricature of themselves. It's probably happened a few times, but not on a regular basis. And you get to see the camera crew on occasion, that you see how a TV show is made from the perspective of an audience.
My second pick is from one of the later few seasons, season 4 through 6, if I remember correctly, and involves a certain character who doesn't like to do homework and a certain puppet who likes to enjoy everything like he's on Sesame Street. Of course, I'm talking about Have a Nice Day with Leroy and Fuzz.
Hey, kids, it's time to have a nice day with Leroy and Fuzz.
Let me tell you about something that irritates me. Everything.
Yeah, I'm sure your list has grown since those days.
Oh, you can imagine.
Yeah, I really love this one from the get-go when I saw the season 4 open up and change things up a bit, just because it gave me a sense of something familiar, because I used to watch Sesame Street when I was a really young kid, and even with my younger brother. But then you had a little bit of that attitude infused of the modern time, like with hip hop culture, and your performance remind me a lot of like the characters Goo and Alfie on My Brother and Me. So it's got the attitude with that innocence clashing together, and it puts a big smile on my face every time I watched it. I just remember one in particular that really made me laugh. Is like it had the sketch had something to do with laundry, and you put Fuzz into this like miniature laundry washer.
Look, Fuzz, you shrunk.
And I was rolling on the floor laughing.
No, I mean, the ingenuity that went into each week, like they would build toilets, like you said, they would build slingshots, they would build I would put him on a drill bit, he would spin around. I put him in a washer, I think. I don't know, washed him like clothes. That was the laundry episode. Just every week, obviously, that was the gag, is he had to make this grand exit that just ruined his life.
Go to sleep, shut your eyes, la 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 la.
So fun to do, great topics, and I think, very underrated. I would say a little bit, just a little bit underrated in the atmosphere and the of all that. But I'm very grateful to be able to star in that particular sketch and to have a signature sketch. And so shout out to everyone that made that dream come true. But it's just I think it's obviously I think it's great.
Hello? It's for you. Ooh, who is it? Pain.
Yeah, look, before we get off it, I'll tell you right now, I actually remixed it with a couple episodes, Lee Boy and Fuzz on YouTube.
Nice.
Just go ahead and shout out Lee Boy and Fuzz. There they go, actually, right there. And so it went. Yeah, it went a little bit dark. You know what I'm saying? This was like during the pandemic times. And there was some
we've
crazy
grown a lot.
topics.
We got to cover some scary things.
So, but I dig on Joe Biden and Donald Trump, all of them. So it got a little political, a little crazy. Got into the COVID, and that's when I'm like, I got to stop this. I can't keep digging a hole here. Can't be a social commenter on this. But I think it was. But yeah, it's a great premise to any skit. And a lot of fun conversation that goes down about so many different topics. So
it's so funny, like, again, through my rewatch going back, and it's like when I was a kid I was like, no, he's making sense, he's talking about the things that I care about. And now as an adult, and I was like, yeah, no, I would have beat that dumb puppet up too. And then as an adult I'm like, oh, but sweetheart, no, we can't do those things. Like, you have to have a bedtime. And I'm like, oh, why are you so mean to Fuzz? Like, he's just trying to help you out. I love it.
Too happy.
It's great. It lives through the ages.
Isn't it great?
And it's not, I mean, bringing it up with the kids, obviously I have to show my kids. I have a 5 and 7-year-old.
It's very important.
But it's not the greatest parenting tip, as you mentioned, as far as bedtime, washing the dishes, doing your homework, brushing your teeth, going to the doctor, any of these things. If you plan on having them be a part of society and a functioning human being, probably wouldn't recommend it. But it is a great comedy sketch.
It's good.
Yeah.
I do want to say, and I guess we can call it the elephant in the room, because whenever all that is concerned, and especially with 90s Nick fans, there is very much a consensus of the later seasons aren't as good as the first seasons. And that happens a lot. I mean, we get that with Doug. The Nickelodeon episodes are better than the Disney episodes, and that they're just going purely on their nostalgic memory. I had gone and watched the entire series a couple of years ago, and I will admit the later seasons they really weren't as good as, and I think it was when they had the change of writers. I think it was also when I hate to say the name, but when Dan Schneider started getting more and more control over all that, and it was less Brian and Dan, that because the comedy was beginning to shift, and it wasn't necessarily the cast, because the later seasons the cast is really trying, and they do a very commendable job. Just the content wasn't as good. But I will say, in the later seasons, when Leroy and Fuzz was coming out, the episodes overall, the season overall, was subpar for the most part, but there was some good comedy in there. You just gotta wade through some mediocrity, but you'll find some good stuff. And Leroy and Fuzz is definitely one of the highlights. And I agree with you, Leon. It is an incredibly underrated sketch in the history of all that. And because Sam, he started watching the OGs, and that was about all he saw for a while, because I told you, he watched the first episode of Salute Your Shorts, and he will hardly watch any other episodes. He gets started on the start and doesn't move any further. So I'm like, no, dude, and I get my phone out and I start showing him some other ones, and I showed him a couple of the Leroy and Fuzz. Oh, he belly laughed. I swear, he belly laughed more at Leroy and Fuzz than he did Good Burger. He loved Leroy and Fuzz, and I guess the Good Burger is more memorable to him because he's watched the movie dozens of times. But as far as the sketches go, he has laughed more at Leroy than at Ed.
Well, I appreciate that, man. But it does really hit a younger demographic, though. Different.
It does. It does.
And so when you're talking about topics like brushing your teeth, very relatable to like 7 to 9, 7 to 10. That's like prime business. Homework and babysitters. Oh, I was feeling my babysitter on the show. I don't even know if you remember.
Another reason I don't like babysitting. Stop the sketch. Who are you? I'm your new babysitter.
Now, like I was saying, babysitters can be cool.
I do remember that one.
But yeah, like it was the topics are great. The topics are great. I wish we could see more. Hopefully they'll have some kind of reprise. But if not, go check out mine on some adult topics. So.
Kylie, what is one of your picks?
CJ and the Cloudy Nights.
As y'all know, my name is CJ of the funky group CJ and the Cloudy Nights. All right, are y'all feeling the funk?
Get on up, it's funky time, let's party.
It's so good, and like,
and call your cousin Marty.
Wake on up, it's funky time, let's party. Eat something, call your cousin Marty.
Move to the boogie, get down. 'Cause boogie funk is what grooving's all about. Boogie funk.
and like just everyone being such a different character. But like, I think part of the reason I connected with that is when I was little, I got immersed into all of worlds of music, and my dad was a big like 70s funk listener, so I listened to some disco and 70s funk and old school jazz, and like I had a lot of exposure to that. So like seeing that, I felt like I understood an extra layer of it. And like Josh as Julius was just like the random, it's
Juicy
like
Julius.
yeah, like that stereotypical like the random white dude thrown in
soul, baby. He's picking his
Whoa, man, I can't go out there like this. My fro just ain't working with me. I can't get it to groove, baby.
It's one of my favorites every time. And like when you guys would argue about what you're gonna call the band, and like just so funny.
We should call it Antoine and the Cloudy Nights. I got the hippest move. Whoa, hold it, fat cats. I just done did pull the pussycat out my fro. That's why the group shall be called Julius and the Cloudy Nights.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was CJ in the Cloudy Nights, and definitely when people ask me what my favorite sketch is, a lot of times I do mention that, obviously because I didn't get to star in a lot of sketches, especially alongside Keenan and Kel and Josh, Danny, I think Zach, well, not Danny, Zach was in there. Christy was in there, so very seldom that I actually got to star in theory, because really I believe Keenan was definitely leading a lot of that. All of us definitely participated. It's an ensemble cast, but to be named a star in that, I always accredit that as one of my favorite times. And I got to sing like in Mike Jackson. You know,
yeah, that's what I loved about it. It felt like the Jackson.
It did feel very Jackson 5-esque.
Yeah, he's one of my biggest influences, just being in the industry in general, just wanting to be famous or a celebrity. You gotta love Mike. So that was great to have my own interpretation of that too.
Yoko is loco.
And Yoko is loco. I don't know. It's a couple of one-liners in there that is hilarious. And then of course, you know, you got the can of hairspray sheen.
Aquanet.
Yeah, Aquanet. Everybody's got that flowing the whole time.
It was one of those that you got a lot of adult humor in. That I think every once in a while, especially looking back as an adult and going through it again, you get those extra layers that Nick always had. Nick always had smart humor under the like really messy, just gross scenes. There was still that level of intelligent humor, but like it was one of those words, you know, that was one of those sketches that they made to try and reach out for some of the parents and be like, this is something you can connect with your kid on as well, you know.
Leon, what is one of yours?
Man, I'm gonna cheat here. I'm gonna say I'm just gonna take a whole bunch of skits and sketches and characters and create my own little thing here and just say all the school scenes, every school character.
Yeah.
It should be done more like this, Maggot.
I have a question, because there are questions about this, because some of them really don't mix the universes. Like, for example, Miss Pidlin and Principal Pimpel, right? They're both in school scenes, but is Miss Fingerly in the same high school as Principal Pimpel? Did she ever interact with Miss Pidlin? Not sure there. How about Coach Cretin? I don't know. Does he mix in with did he mix in with Pimpel? I think he might have been Pizza Face, and Earboy was mixed in with Pimpel.
It's about time you pop that pimple. Oh, every time I look at it, it made me think of the moon. Oh, I'm so happy. The only thing worse than that old crazy looking pimple is my sad, miserable life.
Principal Pimpel, if you're going to be gone for 2 weeks, who will take charge of Dolmont?
It's like loose threads. You kind of think they fit together, but you're not quite sure.
And then you throw in me. I was Billy Fuco a couple times.
I'm Billy Fuco!
Danny, I think Danny, these are probably my favorite sketches of Danny, is whenever he's in the classroom going back and forth with Miss Fingerly. He's pretty funny at that, just being himself. And then one of my favorite sketches is me versus Coach Cretin, Hoodoo Doll. We're in this we're in the classroom scene with Miss Fingerly. So all the school scenes, going back to Pimpel.
Right.
And Keenan has some great behind the scenes moments when Pimpel. Obviously, Keenan's like one of my favorite comedians. And then just the physicality of Kel Mitchell inside these classrooms as Coach Cretin, falling out of the windows, moving out desks out the way, falling behind the desk, getting killed, and all kind of everything has happened to Kel inside these classrooms. So I would just say every classroom scene all put together in my own Lee Boy universe. That's my answer.
But they do really feel like their own shared sketch. It's like a central hub of all that, where all the characters eventually mingle and then go off to their own side sketches.
I never questioned that they weren't all like. I was just like, oh no, they're in school. Like, oh yeah, that's just, or like when like Earboy, it was like, oh, that's another part of the school. These are the same people, you know. Or like when they would take Miss Fingerly, like randomly when you guys had the Wild West sketch, and like they just stuck her in there, and they're like, Miss Fingerly, what are you doing? And she's like, I have no idea, and it's just like.
Well, Miss Fingerly, what are you doing here in the old Wild West?
I have no idea!
Of course, no, she's definitely there. Like, the school scenes were so good.
One of my other picks, and Ask Ashley.
Hi, everyone. It's time for Ask Ashley.
I absolutely loved that one. I felt, good or bad, I had a terrible temper whenever the show came out. Patience was not something I had, but I ended up developing, oddly enough, in junior high. Elementary school, there was none. So anytime I had to deal with people who were just inept, I would snap.
Yes, Robert, I do have a little advice for you. Wear a stinking sweater! A sweater, Robert! I mean, what kind of Alaskan genius goes outside in the middle of a stinking snowstorm wearing nothing but a stinking t-shirt?
And so I also related to Ren of all characters. Ren and Ashley put together, I was like, I love both of these characters. It would have been kind of fun to see a crossover between those two in some form.
I think the world might explode if that happened.
But that reached a point where it got so popular that the kids were saying, that's me, right alongside Amanda.
Dear Ashley, that's me!
I mean, we were saying it at home along with everyone. I haven't seen an audience get so into characters on screen before. I think the only other time I saw an audience really connect with a character that profoundly was around the third or fourth season of Seinfeld. Whenever Kramer would just enter, the crowd would go freaking nuts. They actually had to get to a point where the crew would tell them, okay, don't lose your mind when Kramer comes in because you're taking up screen time. But to see that for the first time, really, audiences were also saying along things with the cast, that was really cool to see. But we knew she was going to flip her lid. We knew there were going to be stupid questions, and we knew she was just going to lay into them. And it's just beautiful every single time.
Maybe you oughta use a stinking parachute! Stinking parachute, you free-falling lugnut! But if your parachute doesn't open, try to land on Christina Maniaci in Brooklyn. Maybe if you whack her head hard enough, she'll be able to figure out that she's got a stinking little brother!
I think the very first time she ended up smacking the camera at one point.
Eugene, come here. Closer, closer, a little bit closer. Take a stinking bath!
Also something you never really get to see very much, but it's a classic, and for very good reason.
Yeah, Amanda's signature sketch, I'd say. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind when she's on the show.
Yeah, I mean, and I think her performance in that sketch in general is what catapulted her and eventually got her own show, because it's one of the strongest performances on all that period. She's there by herself, solo in the scene. I mean, similar to what I was not, in Leroy and Fuzz, I had at least was able to lean on the puppet and all these props. She literally has a piece of paper and she's just screaming. It's just her. It's a very Chris Farley-esque type ability that she has to show you these layers and really take it there and not break character. She was I think it's, like I said, one of the best performances on all that in period. So shout out to big sis, slightly big sis. She's only a little bit older than me, Amanda Bonds. Hope all is well with her, and she definitely deserves her flowers for how great she was in that sketch.
What's up, Lee boy?
Christy, what's up, sis?
Yo,
love you,
dude. I'm type hot at the fact that my Zoom is being,
We were just dead in the middle of Ask Ashley talk, and I was talking about how.
Oh, word?
Yeah, Ask Ashley. It was always a big one for me. I connected with that really, really hard, and it was one of the few that was it was a female, like a female centric skit like that, and I'll talk about Whatever Girls later, but like those were two I really connected with. That like Lori Beth's stuff was funny because it was on that kind of like cerebral level, like with her jokes about vital information and stuff, but like with Ask Ashley and Whatever Girls, it was just, there was something about it being women being funny, and you didn't need anyone else in that scene, and if they were there for a moment and then they were gone, that I just connected with as a little girl.
I've always been a huge fan of Lori Beth's. So like when you talk about Vital, and you were saying like, her lines, yeah, she had like, the writers provided the lines, right? But like, and I know Leon will attest to this, but like, it was the delivery. Let's be honest.
Yes.
If it's the last thing you do, guess what? You're dead.
Very jokingly, and I love the writers. Love you, Heath Seifert. Love you, Kevin Coppola. Love all the writers of all that. But yo, Keenan and Kel would always be like, "Kill the writers," just like jokingly like walk through the set with like blue pages, which meant like it was either a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and there were revisions from table read, and it was like, "Kill the writers," like not really, because of course they gave us incredible meat. I'm a vegetarian, but I'm just saying, They gave us a lot to work with, but it was up to us, right? And that was like the reason why we were invited.
But just in general, our relationship with the writers and being able to go back and forth in characters and them being open to criticism is what even allowed those type of conversations and jokes to happen, right? I don't know. They were
Totally.
It was always a great time building with the writing staff.
It was a total build. It was just like we did have a lot of input in that area. Like even like you mentioned the Whatever Girls. I've mentioned in other interviews that the Whatever Girls started from the Dr. Bine sketch.
Here you go.
And what is all the dirt mud about?
Oh, I was just outside burying something.
Well, what were you burying out there?
Just, never mind.
So all the girls, aside from Amanda, have been the dental assistant for the sketch called Dr. Bynes, featuring Josh Server, the crazy dentist. The sketch is actually called Bad Dentist. And he's, spastic and all that. And so when I joined the cast, the first thing I am a character person. I do like 70 different voices, dialects. That's why I was brought in to cast, because I do a ton of different, that's my thing. So even if it's a very small part, I'm gonna try and spin it. So yeah, so when they were like, the line was like, okay, Dr. Bynes, which is the way most people read it, because the feature was Dr. Bynes. I mean, that was all. But I was like, okay, Dr. Bynes.
Thanks a lot, Jenny.
Oh, Dr. Bynes, you're so welcome.
And the writers lost it. I was like, what? And so because of that, blip or what have you, character blip, I was like, and it was just like, I don't know where it came from. It literally, it was straight freestyle. And then they developed Whatever from that bizarre character.
That little tidbit, now that I know is a fun fact, makes me so happy, because
I was like, that was long-winded as hell, Christy.
No,
Stop.
I am here for it, because I love Josh in so many things, but one of my least favorite characters of his is Dr. Bynes, and I think it's just because he was always so dirty. But when you played his dental assistant, I would watch it. Even now as an adult going back, and I was like, oh, that is one of my favorite things, especially after you joined, was Keenan and Kel. Everybody kind of had their own brand of comedy, but I feel like Josh had a tendency, and you didn't necessarily catch it as a kid, but Josh could just transform into so many different things with the different voices.
He's the longest running cast member for a reason.
How's it going, Tandy?
How do you do, Randy?
Because his face is basically a nasty pizza, and my ears are the size of truck wheels. Now with Super Dude out of the way, I can pursue my lifelong dreams of bothering people all over the world.
Look, you! I ordered my food 10 minutes ago. Now, if my lovely family sitting right over there doesn't get their food in 3 minutes, Bernie Kibbich is gonna become very angry.
Are you feeling it? Are you feeling it? Yes! Yes! Woo!
Yeah, but then when you came in, I felt like you were right there with him, because you guys were just all over the board, and every single scene, like you said, you were something different. There were different voices. It was especially for me as a young kid, it was something I could really imitate, and it definitely helped me in theater by having these different examples that I was watching, because it was something I wanted to watch, to be able to be like, oh, that's different. How do I do that? And it's just
that's so cool.
It was so good. It's so good.
Christy, what is in It could be one that you enjoyed watching. It could be one that you enjoyed performing. Anything. What is one of your favorite All That sketches?
Okay. Well, I'll just because it's just personal. I mean, I know there are ones that I've watched that I'm like, you did it. But when you're on, it's like, okay, it's just a weird thing. It's like you're just, maybe it's not weird, but you're kind of connected to what your work is, right?
Absolutely.
My first season 4, I was like, what the hell? Why did they hire me? Like, this is bad. When I looked at my work, some of the early Brenda Stone stuff was just nauseating for me. I'm just being honest. Not Josh, me.
Oh, well, you seem to be getting a great tan.
Tan, Brenda? I have a blistering 3rd-degree sunburn. It hurts to blink.
Praying too much.
So when they gave Brenda Stone her soul, I was like, for real? But then I loved it. So my 5th and 6th seasons, I was like, okay, you know what? You're coming too. You're waking up. And so in answer to your question, when I did a character, her name was Gloria Bankhead. And, she had this blonde wig and, just very Martha Stewart-esque attire. And she was completely insane.
When I'm upset, nothing cheers me up more than arts and crafts. Not yet, Andre. That's right, arts and crafts. Now, Andre.
But when I look back at her, I'm not disappointed. And I remember even being on set in between scenes. Like it was, she was dressed, but we weren't ready to shoot any Brenda Stone scenes until 4:00. And this is, 12 p.m. And I'm before lunch and I'm like, hey, I'm already in character.
Andre, no one wants to see you. It's my show. Where was I?
She was just insane. She would turn a semi-nuclear particle conductor and an old used magazine into a puppy dog. And then I'd be like, I don't know. I loved it. I've always loved Leon. I've always loved Leroy and Fuzz. It just, I'm just like, now people be like, why are you putting that black child and making him angry? You're gonna make him angry. You got an LL Cool J and everything. Why he wearing a lime green velour shirt? It's hot in LA. But I come on, Leah. But I loved, I thought it was great. I love Leroy. I'm not just saying that because you're here, Leon, but I'm saying I did love Leroy and Fuzz. Loved Vital.
If your grandmother gives you a pretty new sweater, it's rude to thank her by wrapping the sweater around her face and squeezing till she turns blue.
Pretty much anything Lori Beth did. Because I just thought she was fantastic. I love Coach Cretin.
How you doing, little baby? Hey,
Not only the physicality of the Kel Mitchell, but Coach Cretin's funny. Like, he's so funny. And like you wanted to be insulted by Coach Cretin. You're like, all I want to see is that big black tooth in the middle, and please insult me.
Yeah.
Well, and like he was so real too at times, and it was just like little things. Like one time he complained about having to go to the teachers meeting at night because all he wanted to do was be home and watch Baywatch. And I was like, oh my God, I also don't like doing things at night. I want to be in my home and do nothing but stare at a TV for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Like, it was so good.
He was able to go from like 0 to 10 in a heartbeat. And I remember watching earlier today this sketch, I think it's from season 4, called "What Do You Do?" or something to that extent, where you're the host of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Coach Creighton, your guess.
Oh, yeah! All right, now, let me get this straight. Now, if Coach Creighton guesses what Kiley does, the little Kiley doesn't get the pink pretty dollhouse.
That's right.
Good.
And then I remember like Principal Pimpel, Miss Fingerly, Coach Creighton, and Kevin were all on the panelists, kind of like a faux figure it out type game.
Yep.
And I just remember him just getting so upset that he didn't get the answer right that he put Kevin in a headlock and just went bananas. And then your character gave him the points. And then I just remember him like rubbing it in Amanda's face that she didn't win the Malibu Stacy kind of dollhouse prize.
No! Let me go again! Oh, what? Crack his neck like it was some kind of twig crash. I do it!
I pass to Coach Creighton.
Good! Now, Kiley, do you lick lobsters?
Correct.
Oh, yeah! I win! Oh, yeah, Coach Creighton is good! How does it feel to be a loser? Like Coach Creighton, be a loser! Now you're a loser!
He was introduced not as part of the school. The first, I think, when I was looking back and going through it, the first one that I remember seeing was like him, Katrina was playing a little girl whose cat was stuck in a tree. So it's it was just like random. And he was like, every time the cat kicked his butt, every time he climbed up this tree, but every time she'd get upset, he's like, no, okay, I'm sorry, I'll help you. Like he would get so angry, but always, he was, like you said, he was never creepy or anything. Even when he was being mean, like he wasn't cruel. He was just there. And it was so good.
I knew there'd be days like this. Nah, Mama told me. Come here, pussycat.
Kel's physicality, like, knows his physical humor knows no bounds. Like that, those two combined, it's just perfect.
And I wanted to say, I'll add something that just I thought of about, the writers and, the producers, but I'm just thinking of the writers because, they insert these characters that come back, right? It's like when we first start a particular character, like, when that character is incepted, maybe it's not the strongest. At the inception of some of these characters, we may not be blown away at our work. But then as they grow, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad the writers saw something. Maybe they saw something that I didn't see, or Leon didn't see, or, when I say I mean we, didn't see in our own work. And then they were like, no, you know what, we can, like even with the Whatever Girls. Jessica was just spastic.
We're gonna have a Leonardo DiCaprio party! We got some real, like, amazing things to decorate our party with. Yeah, stuff we swiped from Leonardo DiCaprio's actual trash. Now, this is a genuine newspaper towel. Look at the splotches of barbecue sauce. Oh, I so wonder what he had that sauce with. I know, the mystery's, like, killing me.
I've always enjoyed the Whatever Girls. I'll have to say that may be my second. Because I loved working with, we got to work with Kobe, and so that was powerful.
I've got an idea. What? China, why don't we pour Kobe here something called Tajaranga?
Oh, right.
Oh, like pour. Humpty Porty pour. Oh, we'll pour.
Okay, like here, Kobe's a nice glass of punch for you. Oh, I'm like so sorry.
He was such a gentleman, and we didn't just, he was there all day. Kobe, even my mom was like, Kobe. I'm like, Mom, my mom did not stay on set with me. I had a guardian and stuff. So she would come because she's a teacher. So she would come sometimes, she could get away.
She made sure she was there on Kobe Day, though.
Kobe. I'm like, Mom.
Kiley, what is one of your picks?
I will go ahead and say, just in case we get too busy later, I will say I think my all-time favorite sketch, and it was very, very hard to pick, but I think it's Miss Pidlin.
Tell Miss Pidlin what you think of the peas.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Just pretty good.
Well, you know, I mean, they're fine. I mean, they're just fine, Miss Pidlin.
Oh, think they're fine. Think they're fine. But they don't need them.
I realized that on my rewatch I was like, how did Miss Pidlin not exist until season 4? Like,
right?
It was so good.
Did she?
She didn't exist until season 4, and there is something about, and I don't know, you know, what, like, Kenan growing up, but being that young and to really be able to tap into an adult woman, like, he was
definitely pulling from somebody's
yes
grandma,
and you could tell because, like, you know, he did so many different things, but there was something about Miss Pidlin that, like, it was just so good, and, like, the way he would say different words, and it's like, he has heard that growing up from someone. Like, that is definitely an imitation of things that he is so familiar with.
Hello, my pretty little angel. You gonna get a chicken breast, some macaroni and cheese, a corn muffin, and some peas.
Oh, no thanks on the peas.
Excuse me?
The man is a natural, okay?
He's
a natural.
He went from all that and like, now he's on SNL. Like, but no, Miss Pidlin is hands down my all-time favorite sketch, and it's so funny because I hate peas, but, like, I wanted to like peas.
Is something wrong?
Just your attitude. Now get on out of here, you pea heads. Go on. Get on out of here and stay out, you science. You lunch eater. Go on, pea hater.
And, like, some of my favorites are, like, especially, like, whenever Danny Tamborelli would come through the line, like, in the peas and carrots episode, like, just got obliterated with food.
Some peas. I said peas.
Wait, and I said peas. And I said peas. And I
I don't know what would be worse. Some of the, like, weird sticky goo you guys would have in different, like, sketches here or there, or just getting smashed by probably room temperature peas. Like,
and they were definitely
they were getting everywhere, right? They were getting in your ears and your eyes.
And watching like the next person come in, and, like, you can tell that everybody's, like, staying in the scene, but, like, they're trying to look on the floor and, like, not slip.
Yeah, Miss Pidlin.
Hi, Miss Pidlin. What's up, Miss Pidlin?
Well, hello there, my little kumquats.
When Kenan has not been paying attention to how many peas he's throwing, but it's not time for Josh's is it Julio?
Yes, who doesn't? But still, I just need to. Children cannot live without peas. Of course, this is true, Miss Pidlin, but I still need to. Now you arguing with me, huh? You don't like peas? Oh, get on out of here. Oh, get on out of here. No, get out of my kitchen. Don't forget the peas.
Kenan's, like, having to
All
do
scared.
big things with, like, little tiny amounts of peas, which makes it even funnier. Like, it just comedy.
No,
gold.
I mean, I you know what? I'm so happy that you brought Miss Pidlin up, because that is my third also. Like, seriously. Yeah,
So
no, and it was
good.
a pleasure. If you saw, like, because we would always get our script for the following week every Friday night, like, after we would wrap, we would get our script to kind of study for the weekend, and then table read would be on Monday. And if we saw that we were in a scene with, at least for me, if I saw that I was in a Miss Pidlin scene, like, I was in another scene with Nick Cannon, and we were supposed to be, like, judges of, like, these food, and all of a sudden I was just, this lovely sort of British lady, and all of a sudden, oh yes, darling, oh, and I love, oh yes, and I was, it was supposed to be entirely very posh and proper and all that, and Miss Pidlin coming, oh, you like some peas, it's like, it was it was like such a pleasure to see, like, to be part of any scene that Keenan was in, and particularly Miss Pitlin.
And don't forget the song. Did you ever know that you're my hero?
Give peace a chance. All we are saying. Give peace a chance. All we are saying. Sing with me.
Leon, what is one of your picks, bub?
Oh,
one of my favorites. And I've had a couple great mentions. We went through the Great Gambit, and I think this did come up one time in the episode, but one of the most classic characters and one sketch that I actually got to participate in as well. Repairman, man.
I'm Repairman, man.
I mean, it's very similar to Coach Cregan in the physicality when it comes to Kel, but then it's just a whole different spin when you come up with the jokes that are repairman, right? He's supposed to be fixing it, and obviously it just makes it worse.
Hey, watch out. Whoa, careful. Oh, watch out. I can repair that. I'm a repairman. That's what I do.
And worse, and you just can't help but watch the car crash.
I can repair that. No! He's loony! Somebody call security! My guitar! That guitar won't be out of tune anymore. It's not a guitar anymore. Who cares, dude? The audience loves it. Quick, dude, prepare something else. Yeah! Don't mind if I do.
And that hair, and then obviously the mouth. man.
Okay,
Great
wait.
to be in that sketch too. Underrated moment from Lee Boy.
Well, I think I'm gonna need a second opinion.
I'm afraid to ask, but what was that?
That was me! I'm Repair Boy.
Love y'all. Thank you all. And you guys are in great hands with Christy. Appreciate you. Invite me back anytime.
I love you, Leon.
Thank you,
30th
Leon.
anniversary.
Appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Love y'all.
You guys are awesome. I'm just really grateful that you guys even wanted to talk to us. And, I'll speak for myself. I'm very grateful for that. I'm fully humbled just by the generosity of your invitation. And I can't wait to speak with you guys again. Very, very wonderful to meet you, Brett and Kiley and Alex. And keep in touch, you guys.
Will do. Thank you so much, Christy.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with Leon and Christy now no longer in the episode, thank you so much to both of you for being here. Now that you're hopefully watching this episode, we're going to finish our picks. I've already said my 3. Brett, what is your final pick for the night?
Ooh, this is a tough choice, but I think I have to go back to the past for some of the earlier seasons because this one really struck a chord with me. I don't know why. I think it was the imagery. I'm going to go with Walter the Ear Boy. I don't know. I find weird things really entertaining, and there's no rhyme or reason why he has big ears. It was never explained as far as I know, but I love seeing him wrestle with his differences in school because I know we all have some insecurities about ourselves, and that's just exaggerated to the nth degree. So we can relate there. But also you have these really interesting cast of characters that also connect with him too, like Pizza Face, played by Kel Mitchell, Egghead, Four Eyes, played by Angelique Bates, Tinsel Teeth by Elisa Reyes, so on and so forth. And then of course you have the great Ross Perot, who's like this grand sage guru figure to Eeyore for God knows why.
Yippee!
Look out, Pizza Face!
He's always there, played by the great Christina Johnson, just giving him a nonstop speech of this harebrained scheme to follow.
No, No bullies never bother me, because I know Kung Pao Weenie.
Kung Pao Weenie?
Kung Pao Weenie. It's the ancient art of weenie combat. If and I teach you Kung Pao Weenie, you can whoop anybody. You want I should teach you?
Sure.
Okay, then, watch this. Whoa, whoa,
You know, everything usually works out in the end. And the sketch in particular from the Earboy series that stood out to me is like, how are you going to make Earboy look cool when everyone's like fashion fly at school? And of course, Ross Perot get this crazy idea to drill into his ear and give him like a camping lantern as a earring. Like, who thinks of that?
Stand over yonder. I want to see if I can check this grapefruit through that big hole.
I kind of just wanted to put an earring in here.
Am I talking French? Am I spewing mercies or bonjours? You'll get your earring, but it's going to have to be a doozy to fill that humongous hole.
And also, I tried putting a camping lantern in my ear because of that, and I couldn't get it to stay.
And going along with things were just weird in that whole sketch was his best friend was Pizza Face.
Look, when we were talking about the costumes earlier, the things they did, especially in the Earboy, like the way they did the prosthetics, and they didn't just look like something was stuck on their face. Like, terrifying, like nightmare level terrifying, but so good at the same time.
Oh, hey, you guys better not mess with us. I know Kung Pao Weenie.
I don't know what else to say. I just think all those actors played their roles to perfection, even if it was a simple, weird little sketch in the corner that sometimes show up.
And Kylie, what is your final pick? We will have a section for honorable mentions.
I think I'm gonna have to, just like Brett, take it back to the classics and say Loud Librarian.
Can you believe her? Quiet! Why are you talking? This is a library!
That was on my... If I had an extra time, I was going to say that one too.
Loud Librarian, just so funny. And each time it got bigger and more ridiculous. Like every time you're like, how are they gonna top her, like watching a loud, soap opera, or like vacuuming the children, or like how are they gonna top it? And like at one point she's got a baby and she's yelling at the baby because the baby's crying. Like, just kept building it. It was funny every time.
Extra ball! Oh, you killed! Oh, you killed it! I really touched you! Killed her! Must I remind you where you are? This is a library! And that means no eating! And no noise! So if you insist on choking, do it somewhere that's not a library!
One of the things, like earlier when Christy was talking about Lori Beth, I think the reason Lori Beth is such a standout for me is you very rarely saw her like she was about to break. She had the ability to just be so stoic.
Some would say this glass is half empty. Some would say it's half full. I say...
that it just made things even funnier. And the couple times that you do catch her where it's like right before the camera's gonna pan and you see her start to smile, were just like the gold in there, because it's like, oh, there it happened, like it did happen, it was so good.
Yeah, Loud Librarian was also one of my picks. It was also Sam's number 4 pick, because he was telling me before we did the
Good choice.
episode. He also loves that one. I'm pretty sure that's in Megan's top 3. She loved Loud Librarian.
I think the loudest she ever got that I witnessed her is she was revving up like a Harley Davidson.
Yes,
like,
yes,
in the library.
Yes.
And I'm like, where are you going to drive that?
We've even referenced that every time we go to the library. Of course, we whisper yell.
Right.
Yeah, we'll do that all the time. But we still have quite a bit that we would love to at least address, but we'll do that here in a bit. We are going to take a break from snicking for a minute. We're going to go repop some popcorn and get ready for the rest of the snick block. So we're going to head out for a commercial break, and we'll come back with our honorable mentions.
You're watching Snick. All that is coming up next.
Hey, it's Lee Boy TV live in effect. Follow me at Lee Boy TV. You can catch me on the 80s, 90s, and 2005s podcast. Also, I have my own radio show, The Underground Lounge, on Indie 1015 Internet Radio. Holler at me and Midtown Radio. If you have any plugs or need anything as far as radio promotion, I'm here. I'm your man, Lee Boy. All of that. Leon Lee Boy Frierson. Peace. Lee Boy TV. Hey.
Splat Attack is turning 2. And as a special thank you and birthday present, we are providing you, Slimesters, with 3 episodes free from our Patreon. If you want to check those out, look down in the description below. You will find those there. And if you watch these episodes and you enjoy them, please consider subscribing to our Patreon, so that way you will have a whole backlog of 3 seasons worth of exclusive content. A very special thank you to Christy Knowings for coming out to share her thoughts and memories about all that. If you enjoyed hearing from her, head over to support her improv group on YouTube called Doing the Most Comedy. It takes place on YouTube Live at 9 p.m. Pacific Time on Fridays. Also give Christy a follow on social media by following at Christy Knowings. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of our top favorite All That sketches. While you're here, please hit the like button and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell. If you are listening on a podcast app, please leave us a review. All of these very simple actions make a big impact on our channel. Make sure you also follow us on social media for any major updates that we have going on. And also, if you have some questions that you would like to ask or get in contact with us in some way, you can always email us at splatattack2021@gmail.com.
Do you like TTRPGs? Do you like a bunch of misfits getting together and going on wacky adventures? Come check out Homebrews and Homebodies over on Twitch, where we stream on Mondays and Wednesdays. You can also check out our YouTube channel for all of the videos that we have previously done. We have covered everything from Muppets to Legos to high fantasy adventure. So if you want to just disassociate for a while and go on an adventure, check us out over at Homebrews and Homebodies on Twitch and YouTube.
Tune in next time, Slimesters, when we head to the sketchy side of town and get caught up in reading some dangerous comic books for our latest Are You Afraid of the Dark vs. Goosebumps face-off between the Ghastly Grinner and the Masked Mutant. This one was one of our most requested Versus episodes to do way back in Season 2 of the podcast, so we're thrilled to give this one some action-packed attention with our guest and YouTuber Zach from Campfire Tales. You can catch all the slamorific action only here on Splat Attack.
You're watching Snick. Now back to All That.
All right, I got my popcorn ready. I am ready to keep snicking.
I ran for my bathroom break.
Brett.
I did too. I was right behind you.
I was bringing the child. I needed to relive my childhood memories, and I had to time it. I was like, I only have a couple minutes. We gotta go.
Perfect timing, Kylie, as always.
Thank you. I'm haven't lost it yet.
Snacks from the kitchen.
Feel good about it.
Brett, what are some of your honorable mentions?
I got a couple of them. One's a recurring sketch, and the other are one-time sketches. I'm just gonna rattle them off real quick, if that's okay.
No, go ahead.
So starting off, I have Bag and Sag and Barry, which we actually mentioned in our 24th episode on Patreon, because it's all in the pants. And of course, that was one of those Keenan-focused sketches where it's similar like Loud Librarian. You don't know how it's going to escalate, but it just keeps escalating, where he keeps taking out like bigger and wilder things out of his pants to help people or give it to someone else. And I think there's like another variation of it where there's Bag and Sag and Mary.
Sag and Mary, yeah.
Yeah, where she would like compete with him to see who can help who with all the stuff that's in their pants. And that was a sketch that was been around even since the pilot episode, because in the first one, he went out on a camping trip with like a bunch of Boy Scouts and was like able to give them all the different camping supplies. So that's like one of the earliest ones that stood out to me the longest. And then also for speaking of the pilot, I gotta go with All That Raps, where Keenan was playing I think his name was Snoop Froggy Frog or something to that extent. Froggy Frog. Yeah, this was like a weird after the performance sketch, because TLC were the Fly Girls involved, literally wearing like flies on their head, dancing with Keenan while Elisa Reyes was interviewing all of them as if they're on like some sort of fake MTV show. And I just love the fun energy of it, and it really captures the essence of what was going on in pop culture at the time, at least from a music standpoint in 1994. So I have a soft spot for that. And then lastly, I'm going to do another one from season 1, actually, the Debrat episode where she performed. It's called Hey to Dr. K, where Kel is a radio host, and he's just like, hey, the ticky Dr. K, and then he's like answering people's problems as they radio in. And it's kind of like the precursor to Ask Ashley, because all these callers have really stupid sounding questions that he tries to answer, and then when he attempts to give them like a half-hearted answer, he like uses a slingshot to hit a gong on the wall, and he's like, problem solved, boing. And then out of nowhere, this is the clincher. This is the clincher, because Keenan comes in as Bill Cosby, who's still carried on into his SNL sketches to this day, and he's like adding some extra salt to that pepper that he's going and starting the whole Keenan and Kel chemistry going on. And there's this one moment where he's giving this totally improv, long-winded answer to the caller on the radio show, and I just can't like stop laughing on the floor. It's too hilarious. I laughed at it back when I was like a young child watching this for the first time, and I laughed at it yesterday when I was reviewing all these sketches. So if you have a chance to look at it and put the clip in here, definitely do that, because I can't, it's too much to remember all the words.
And also eat yellow pudding until it comes out your nose all gooey and running like a buffalo, with purple underpants and red pants on his elbows, with snot coming out his nose, and it's all gooey and runny and nasty, and he needs to wipe himself every time he come out the bathroom. I don't get it. Neither do I.
For my honorable mentions, many of these are one-shots also. But there was one sketch, I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it was Pair of Pants, where there was
the pants store.
Yes, there was a store that just had one pair of pants, and they could never, ever sell it. And also continuing with Lori Beth, because Lori Beth actually makes quite a bit of an appearance in my honorable mention, was the Complaint Department. She never could quite tell if she was going full Ed or a blend of Ed and her Vital Information character, where she just knew but just refused to acknowledge everyone's complaints.
Okay, so like one of mine has to do with this, so I have to say it. I, as a kid, did not love the Complaint Department. I don't know, it didn't really connect with me, and I think it's because it wasn't big, and I think that's why I maybe didn't connect. But going back and watching it, one of my favorite scenes that I've seen the whole time is when Ed comes into the Complaint Department and they're going back and forth about why the bra he bought won't play the CD. And it was just, I watched it and I was like, so good, because it's one of those times where it's like, oh man, I wish this character and this character would meet, and they were like, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So good.
I bought this bra, but it won't play the CD.
Did you try blowing your nose in the bra?
Yes.
Did you try rubbing the bra with cheese?
Yes.
Did you spank the bra and send it to Australia?
Oh, I feel so stupid. See, I spanked the bra and sent it to Switzerland.
And the one-shot sketch, The Secret World of Alex Sachs.
Oh.
Yep. I saw that earlier today.
Yep.
Which was just fun, because I think it's the only time we've ever seen All That do a direct parody of a Nickelodeon property. So I really, really like that, and the fact that they actually got Larissa Olenek to come in and do it again for them, which was fun. I believe it was season 1. They had as their cold open how they auditioned for the show. That cracks me up.
Like Katrina's pulling the bus and they're doing all these crazy stunts to get qualified.
It was later in this series, but the Everything Sticky sketch, which has now become something of legend because that one gets shown quite a bit through Facebook groups. And the final two is Vital Information. At first, it just wasn't that funny. It was just loud. But then the writers seemed to really catch on to something really magical. And then they got pretty funny. And then they just got side-splitting hilarious. Particularly my favorite is whenever she was saying how much she hates the Macarena.
Oh, Macarena, Macarena, Macarena. Oh, Macarena, Macarena, Macarena. Oh, I hate the Macarena.
And then finally, and this is more of a character reappearance, every single time Kel showed up and just yelled, "Kill me, Dad!"
Oh, Lump.
Love it.
The Maroon family.
Yes.
I think they're on like a Family Feud.
Yeah, there was a Family Feud episode at one point.
That one in particular.
I think that's where it started, and then they just kept inserting that character in various places.
I'm laughing just thinking about it now.
So good.
And Kylie, what were some of your honorable mentions?
I'm just gonna say Josh Server. Like, just look, like I said earlier, that man could just the accents he would pull out, the physicality, like the body language he would give. Off the top of my head, Detective Dan, can't go wrong. Also, Bernie Kibbinger, the old man he played, that debuted, I think, in the Pants Store episode. And, like, he kept coming back, and it was so good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that old Jewish man.
Yes.
Yep.
But, yeah, just Josh, so good. Other honorable mentions, the USS Spaceship, the Star Trek spoof.
Yes.
That they did all the time.
I'm gonna throw in real quick Mavis and Clavis because I think they're brilliant together.
Yes, Mavis and Clavis is maybe my favorite Keenan and Kel sketch. And again, I think it's because they both pulled from real life people that I think they just, that imitation was so good. Katrina was like the actual celebrity impersonator with the cast. Like whenever she was Roseanne, killed me every time. Just coming out of the closet with just all of the lipstick everywhere. So funny. The Wizard of Cause is one of my favorites, and it only happened one time, and it was the first time that I remembered seeing Keenan be Bill Cosby, which made that big jump for me, and also gave me a nightmare because Josh played, what was it, like McFrog, whatever. Oh my god, that costuming, what they made his face look like this was a nightmare. Still gives me nightmares. Terrifying. It's got the big, like, all of his face is like this. And then Connie Muldoon constantly.
Yes.
Connie Muldoon. So funny especially when she would turn up at Good Burger, and they were both just very literal, and it was so funny. And I think this is one that most people probably didn't really care for, but Squash Boy.
Squash Boy!
Squash Boy?
Uh-huh. In fact, here comes Squash Boy now!
Over here, Squash Boy!
Uh-huh.
The way my brain just, the minute they started saying it, like, just something unlocked, and I was like, oh my god. Like, just no notes. So good. No notes.
That's a deep fault.
It's a deep cut. It's a deep cut.
And because you had said Connie Muldoon, I just now completely remembered
Lester Oaks, construction worker.
Oh, and Island Girls.
Yes.
I loved Island Girls, and like, I love that now that I'm older, I'm just like, poor Lori Beth. Like, I am Fran. I am Fran. I don't want to do these things. I'm stranded on an island.
See,
Please stop singing.
Kylie,
we are Kiki and Fran.
Every time I saw that, I thought of me and you in that scene.
We are Kiki and Fran.
Every single time.
You are the Kiki to my Fran.
Yep.
I guess I'm the coconut then that she bonks her head with.
You're the guy who always comes in that's supposed to rescue us,
and then I send you away.
Kiki's like, okay, bye.
Yep.
I'm like, wait, who was that? What?
It's like Gilligan's Island in a nutshell.
Yes.
A coconut shell.
Coconut shell.
Before we wrap up the episode, we actually have a little bit of shout out your lungs out to talk about because we have some responses from our Slimesters on Instagram to see what they had to say that is their favorite All That sketch. So let's jump right into it. Alrighty. So for Shout Out Your Lungs Out, we polled Instagram to see what our Slimesters had to say about all that in this episode with their favorite sketches. So starting off, we have the following. Ben Bink 888 says he likes Loud Librarian. Since we just talked about that, good choice.
Good choice.
Loud and proud. Manny, who's our friend of the podcast and part of our staff, says he loves Jimmy Bond, particularly the Cold Finger and Hot Toe episodes. Right on, Manny. We love both of those too. Travis Kemp, who's a friend of the podcast, says, can't go wrong with Everyday French with Pierre Escargot. Oh, my pants smell like sausages. Yeah, it's great. It's simple, but effective. MSP10 Julia says she enjoys Good Burger, which surprisingly we didn't talk that much about.
Yeah, we didn't.
Episode, but I was going to mention it later.
I think it's probably because
it's good.
I think it's probably because it's such a standard with the show that we tried to. We knew one of us was going to bring it up, so we avoided it for somebody else, and we all avoided it. But yeah, easily Good Burger.
Haunted Elk says she finds the Lemonade Scammer, the Island Girls, and anything with Miss Fingerly just delightful. Thank you for sharing, Haunted Elk. Lori Beth Denberg performances in those and Katrina are both great. And Elisa, too. Nick Hoyme, who's also a friend of the podcast, appreciates Repair Man. And, of course, Good Burger, too. Very nice, Nick. Love it. Big John 08865 loves Alex Sachs.
Hey!
And you can guess why, because he's a Larissa Olenek fan. So there you go. And lastly, our longtime listener and Slimester Jeffrey Carr also can't get enough of Repairman. So awesome picks by everyone who chimed in with us. Thank you so much for sharing your answers.
Yes, thanks, guys.
And if you guys want to interact with us more, head on over to our Patreon, check out some of the bonus content we have there, and also just keep chiming in whenever we interact with our audience for these episodes. We love sharing your answers and hearing what you have to say.
Or if you guys want to interact now, you can do so by answering our closing question, which is, what, good sir?
Which All That sketches do you remember most vividly and why? Write to us via email at splatattack2021@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram at splatattackpodcast. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Splat Attack Podcast as we're continuing to grow our video channel there. Or just interact with us where you find us on social media. You know where we are at this point. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, you name it. Find us. We also have some lovely bonfire shirts that we've made over the past season, and there's many more designs to come later this season. So if you love to support the show by showing some of our merch off, you can get a shirt or a mug at our bonfire page, which is bonfire.com/Splat Store. And need help, there's a link in YouTube. Alrighty, everyone. Until next time, Alex, will you scrape up the slime off our wall, please? I've got to create a new chocolate-based dish for Randy and Mandy that will surely appeal to even the most lactose intolerant of superheroes.
Aye, co-captain. Before you bring your confectionery creations onto the sketch, I think you need just one last element to make this dish sing.
What's that?
Ketchup!
No, not my arch nemesis condiment. Super Dude, where are you? Splat you later, Slimesters. I'm gonna need a truckload of fries to clean up this mess.
Bye.
time. See ya. You have a good time, now.
That's our show, everybody!
Anyone want to come with us?
Yeah,
Whoa, get in and quit yapping! Hey, hey, hey!
Will we be back in time for our next class?
Maybe, maybe not. Oh! She threw the back, though. Join us next time when our next topic will be hospital.